Hi, my name is Petra and I love teaching people about nutrition and making tasty recipes. So today I'm going to make an enchilada bake and also an easy no-cook salsa. And you can get the recipes at ChooseMyPlate.gov. That's ChooseMyPlate.gov. You can get tip sheets, and under what's cooking, you can get the recipes. So the recipe that I'm using today is enchilada bake and also the easy no-cook salsa. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the tip sheets. The first one is eating better on a budget. So one way to eat better on a budget is to buy in bulk. We are using beans in this recipe, and what I often do to save money is to buy a whole 25-pound bag of beans. I can share it with my neighbors to share the cost so that we can have like black beans, pinto beans, the beans that we like. And you can also go to the bulk sections of places, grocery stores, and get bulk beans and lentils and dry peas and other bulk items like brown rice and such. Then buying in season really helps, and you'll see that today I'm using diced tomatoes, but if you have an abundance of tomatoes, you can use those. So that's a few tips from eating better on a budget. The next tip sheet that we're going to go and look at is vary your protein routine. So one way to do that is adding more legumes into your diet. So today we're going to use beans, and you can use canned beans, or what I did last night is I soaked 1 cup of beans and soaked them overnight. So to finish cooking, or not to finish, but to cook them, is I would drain the water, rinse them really well, put them in a pot, add fresh water, and then cook the beans for about an hour till they are really soft. So you could add bay leaf or kombu or epazote to reduce flatulence for the beans. And also after you soak them, if you drain them, often I let them sprout a little bit. Not that the tail would come out, but kind of just let them sit so that they further break down hemagglutinins and trypsin inhibitors. So that's a great way to reduce flatulence and cook beans. So varying your protein and adding more plant protein is really helpful, especially since beans are so rich in dietary fiber. The other tip I would like to share with you is add more vegetables to your day. One thing is choosing vegetables rich in color. So for this recipe today, it asks for onions, and so I'm using white onions but also some red onions, because the darker the color, the more phytochemicals there are in there, and phytochemicals protect your body. Just like they protect plants from disease, it also does that for your body. And the other colors we have today are the corn, and we have the cilantro and avocado, so green, and we have the purple with the onions. So there's quite a variety of color, and also beans have lots of phytochemicals. So the black beans have very dark, rich colors. And stocking up on vegetable is also very helpful, and that's what I mentioned earlier with eating on a budget, is buy canned foods when they are on sale. So the next item is salt and sodium. Our recipe today asks for salsa, 2 cups of salsa. Now I measured, this is 2 cups of salsa, and 1 serving is 2 tablespoons, 30 milliliters, and that gives you 180 milligrams of sodium. So if you I figured it out, it would be 3,240 milligrams of sodium just alone from the salsa. So to reduce the sodium, I'm going to show you today how to make your own salsa with the easy no-cook salsa recipe that you can find at What's Cooking. So that's reading the labels definitely helps. Then the recipe, most of the enchilada recipes have cheese on them, and that's a great source of calcium. If you are among the 65% of the world population who has lactose intolerance, then you might want to look for alternatives. So how do we get the calcium that we need? And at ChooseMyPlate.gov there is some information. It says for those who choose not to consume milk products, you can do calcium fortified juices, cereals, breads, rice milk or almond milk, or soybeans, tofu. So in theory you could add some tofu with the beans, maybe mash it up a little bit instead of the cheese, or you could maybe use an almond cheese because almonds are rich in calcium as well. Also dark leafy greens are a good source, and they easily absorb the calcium in dark leafy greens. If you use tofu, make sure that you use that it's coagulated, because it's kind of like a soy cheese. It's coagulated with calcium sulfide, because then you have more. Another great calcium source that I am using today is the tortillas, the corn tortillas. If they have lime added, they have more calcium as well. So one tortilla here, the serving size is 33 grams, has 105 milligrams of calcium. And our serving of almond cheese has 200 milligrams of calcium. All right, so now I'm gonna get cooking. First I wanna show you a little trick my friend Maria Teresa showed me. Is you can use a heavy duty knife, and then you can press on the garlic, and then it's easier to peel. And then I'll use that in my compost bucket. If you have that available, that certainly reduces the landfill. And then I use this cutting board because of the flavor from the garlic. You mince it, so you cut it very, very fine. You want to always tuck your fingernails in and have the knife be the guide with your hands so that you don't cut yourself. So here's my minced garlic, or at least one clove. And then my husband, he always goes to thrift stores, so that's a great way of getting some cheaper stuff. He got this garlic press, so that's another way of mincing garlic. So either way you can do it, either with a knife or with the garlic press, and then often they have this feature so that you can scoop it out. All right, so let me crank up the heat. Oh, I need to turn on the oven. We're gonna bake the enchiladas at 350. Okay. So the recipe asks for 1 tablespoon of oil. Now 1 tablespoon of oil has 120 calories. And I like to use my calories more for fats like nuts and seeds or avocado, where I get some fiber and other nutrients like antioxidants, phytochemicals, and of course, like I said, the dietary fiber. So what you can do is you can do a water method in sauteing, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. So you can either use some water, or you can use a little bit of vegetable broth. So I'm going to put just a tablespoon of vegetable broth on there, and I'm going to add my onion, my white onion. Have a rainbow of colors, hopefully, in your recipe. I'm going to saute the onions for a few minutes, and then add the garlic. Okay, so while that is sauteing, let me talk to you a little bit about the other ingredients, because next we're going to add the beans. I already talked to you about how you drain the beans and how you soak them, so I'm going to put that out of the way so I have more room. And we'll add the corn. Now, you can use fresh corn, you can use canned corn, you can use frozen corn, so whatever works for you. I'm going to use some of the canned corn, but let me just show you how you could use the fresh corn. So you scrub the corn, and when it's in season, it's definitely cheaper. I'm going to put this in my compost bucket, and then I will, try to get it as stable. Maybe what you can do is cut the end so that it's a little bit more stable, and then I just cut along the stalk to get my corn. Now, another thing you can do is add some fresh corn afterwards with the enchilada, which I think would be really fabulous. I'm going to use another tool here. Scoop this up. It's a little bit easier. So I'm going to reserve that for later. Alright, so that's sauteing nicely here. And now I'm going to add my beans. So 2 cups of beans. And half a can of corn. I'll use the canned corn, this one. And then I'm going to add my cumin. So it is 1 teaspoon of cumin. You could add a little bit more depending on how much you like cumin. But adding spices to your meal is really, really helpful because you get more antioxidants and phytochemicals and more color. So that's going to have to heat up a little bit. And while this is heating up, I'm going to show you how to make this fresh salsa. Well, not necessarily fresh, but homemade salsa. Because this salsa has so much sodium, if you want to avoid it, here's what you can do. And you can find this recipe at What's Cooking, Easy No-Cook Salsa. So we're going to come over here and I'll show you how to do that. So I have the recipe asks for 2 cans, 14.5 ounces. This can is double, 28 ounces. And this has no added salt. And so that's this can. Just put that in. I had some fresh jalapenos, but you could also do canned of dried green chilies. So that will give it some spice. And we're going to have some garlic, 1 clove of garlic that I already minced for you. And it asks for green onions. I didn't have green onions, so I substituted and used some red onions. And it asks for some pepper. Add that. And some lime juice. So what I do for the lime juice is I roll the lime or the lemon a little bit to soften it, and then it's easier to cut it and to juice it actually. So what I'm doing here, you can, oh, I need a fork. So what I often do just to get the juice out, and I'm protecting my counter a little bit from the acid, is just use the fork and squeeze a little bit. You could use citrus reamer too. And I need 2 tablespoons of lemon or lime juice. The good thing about limes are that they don't have seeds. So if you don't want to deal with the seeds, then use lime juice. And they're rich in vitamin C, which is an antioxidant. So that's cool. Okay, so let me measure here. 1 tablespoon, and here's the second one. Perfect. Alright, so here I have my salsa with some fresh ingredients and no added salt. And so that's going to be helpful to use in my recipe. The recipe also asked for cilantro and for the green onions, but I'll add them afterwards. Since I'm cooking that, the cilantro I think will do better when I add it later after it's been baked. So I'm gonna use half a cup here in my filling, my enchilada filling. And now what I'm doing is also turning on the pan to heat the corn tortillas. Some corn tortillas are a little bit stiff, and to soften them a little bit, it helps to heat them up, and I've already done that with the rest of them. So I'm going to heat this up a little bit. And my mixture, I think, is ready. The filling is ready to go. So I'll show you how to do this, but let me just clean up a little bit so that I have room. Put this in my compost bucket. I like doing that. So what you do is I have my warm tortillas already here. I put them in a paper towel to keep them warm. So I get my baking sheet ready, and I'm going to add half a cup of the salsa I just made and put it on the bottom of the baking sheet. And I just swoosh it around a little bit so that it covers the bottom. I think I'll add a little bit more just to, so that the enchiladas don't stick. Alright, so after I do that, I'm going to take my corn tortilla and scoop some of the enchilada filling on there and then roll it. So roll it, and then with the seam down, I'm going to put it in the the oven is ready for the enchiladas. So I'm just going to roll it and put the seam down and fill them up, seam down, and I'm going to continue doing that for the rest of them, and then I will add the rest of the sauce. So for time purposes, I'm just going to do 4 right now, and then I'll finish it. So what you do is you add the rest of the enchilada sauce on top. And then you can add the cheese. Oh no, so, sorry. You add the cheese after you bake it. So this is what happens sometimes with the recipe. So you first bake it, and the way I do that is I have a little bit of a sheet here to protect the enchiladas. And then I'll put aluminum foil over it to cover it. And I'll put it in the oven now. And then when it comes out of the oven, I'll bake it for about 15 to 20 minutes. And when it comes out of the oven, then I uncover the enchiladas. And then I'll add the cheese and put it in the oven for another 2 minutes to melt the cheese. And when it comes out and is ready, what I do then is add all these different fresh ingredients to my enchilada. So like fresh corn, cilantro, some more lime juice, fresh tomatoes, some avocado maybe, onions, so whatever you delight, maybe some chopped up kale even, because kale is also rich in calcium. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make these enchiladas. They are super easy to make. You can either make your own salsa or use store-bought salsa. And then look at some of these tip sheets that I mentioned to you. You can get the recipes at ChooseMyPlate.gov under What's Cooking. Sometimes what you might have to do on the website is put it in the search engine what tip sheet you want, because there's so many. You can also, once you get to the main website, ChooseMyPlate.gov, you can scroll down to online resources and you'll find the My Plate tip sheets and the What's Cooking and other things too. And those are very helpful. And so I would like to thank you for your time, and let's get cooking.